Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
What's up, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 166 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I'm Tom Haggis, your host this month, and today I'm joined by four perfect panel specimens. They are wooden and thick as planks. Our first, we've got writer, actor, and director Kyle, fresh off giving himself an oil job. Fine.
How did you know what I was going to say?
I put you first because I knew you were going to take that one.
Robbie the robot, do you have a pleasure mode?
Second, filmmaker and owner of Southsider Studios, Mike, you will find his huge body impregnable. Keeler.
Welcome to Al Fairmore, gentlemen. I am to transport you to the residence.
That's my Robbie the robot.
That was really
Pretty good impression, wasn't it?
It was really good impression. You even did the cash register sounds really realistic. Well done.
It's difficult. I studied at the School of Winslow.
Didn't we all? Third, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions. It's Gabriel. He's got the bourbon. If you've got a couple 100 gallons of lube oil, Roald.
Yeah, I think that character represented me for sure. I saw that, I'm like, that would be me. You are replicating bourbon. Thank you. Thank you, Robbie.
What a weird ass plot point that was. I was like, what? How did he get on the ship? Lastly, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Inc. Studios, Andrew. He's being. I can't believe I fucking did that.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. Stop. I said Inc. and Studios and I got tongue tied. Oh my God. Lastly, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Inc. Studios, Andrew. He's become very impatient with our stupidity, Zumwalt.
What's a bathing suit? That's as good as I got. You guys.
Oh, God help me. All right. Well, all this exposition isn't going to listen to itself, so let's get this ship off the ground and poke the monkey.
Ladies and gentlemen, celestial crewmen and silver-suited strangers, welcome to the main event. Tonight, it's an old-school sci-fi smackdown as two 50s flicks travel far and wide for a win. In the first quarter, from 1956, written by Cyril U. Irving Locke and Alan Adler, directed by Fred M. Wilcox, starring Leslie Nielsen and Francis and Walter Pidgeon. Forbidden Planet. In the second quarter, from 1951, written by Edmund H. North and Harry Bates, directed by Robert Wise, starring Hugh Marlowe, Patricia Neal, and Michael Rennie. The day the earth stood still.
All right, so we've got two classic sci-fi movies. I think there's not a whole lot I can say. But I haven't seen these before. I watched them this week, so this will be a show. All right, here we go. Let's start off with writing.
I have to say that I enjoyed both of these movies very much, and like you, Tom, I don't think I've seen either of these movies all the way through before. Of course, I've been familiar with The Day the Earth Stood Still, and Mike really loves Forbidden Planet, and he mentioned it, and I was in a Best Buy one time. And I went through the bargain bin, and there it was on Blu-ray. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to get it. So I actually own it on Blu-ray. And I look forward to looking at some of the special features on there. But I enjoyed both of these quite a bit. And I think overall they're pretty well written. I mean, these are from the 50s. They age a little bit, and people's mannerisms and speech have changed over time. The funny thing about Forbidden Planet to me is that it was basically like a bunch of horny dudes on a spaceship come down to this planet, and then there just happens to be this really cute young woman on this planet, and they're all basically vying for her attention. And I thought that was a little bit funny, but I think there was more to it than that. But that seemed to be a central theme is the kind of the chaos that this beautiful woman was creating with this all-male crew. And really, in the end, to a certain degree, the whole plot revolves around that too. The father getting angry about it, basically, whether he's conscious of it or not. And then I really enjoyed the writing for the Day the Earth Stood Still. I keep trying to think. Maybe you guys can help me. I keep trying to think of a shorter way to say that, so that we don't have to say the whole thing every time. The day. So I tried to do an acronym on it, but it didn't work very well either. But I liked some of the writing in that, and some of the dialogue, but some of which Tom referenced in the intro. I really liked some of the dialogue. For instance, Klaatu says, "I'm impatient with stupidity. My people have learned to live without it." And then the guy responds, "I'm afraid my people haven't. I'm very sorry. I wish it were otherwise." And I'm like, oh, that was a good, I don't know, that was a good exchange there. And I thought, well, things haven't changed all that much. Our people haven't necessarily become impatient with stupidity. And then there's a line where the woman at the boarding house says basically, there's nothing strange about Washington, Mr. Carpenter. And then Klaatu, Mr. Carpenter, responds, "A person from another planet might disagree with you." And I thought, oh, those are kind of fun. I like. Oh, and there was another funny one to me. They're trying to figure out how he healed himself so fastly, how Klaatu healed himself so quickly. And the doctors are sitting there talking to each other, and one hands the other one a cigarette and says, "He says their medicine is much more advanced." He's like handing him a cigarette. Well, yeah, obviously, if doctors are smoking, their medicine is a little bit more advanced. But I enjoyed some of the writing, some of the lines in The Day the Earth Stood Still. But I think one of the things that we should probably touch on is not necessarily the specifics of the writing or the character development or anything but the themes. And I think the themes in a lot of these types of movies, from the sci-fi movies from the 50s, are similar. There's this kind of concern about atomic energy, about nuclear power, because obviously these aren't too far removed from the end of World War II, and that's something that's on people's minds. And there's this concern about atomic power and being able to control it and harness it. And then there's also this fear of foreign invaders. And not like what we're being told to fear about, immigrants nowadays, but something a little bit scarier. Foreign invaders from another country trying to actually come in and invade the country and take over the country. And there's a lot of fear of that. And that is represented by the aliens in these movies. But there's also some irony in it. I think mostly in the day, where the aliens are coming because they're concerned about our use, about us humans invading their territory and bringing in nuclear weapons and being kind of immature and irresponsible with it. And I think those themes kind of show themselves in both of these movies and a lot of the movies in sci-fi movies from the 50s. So I don't know. I enjoyed the writing on both of these overall. What do you guys think?
Oh God, Mike.
Oh, excuse me, sir. You go ahead.
Okay, fine. I'll make it brief. He lied. Yeah, I agree with you. I like the themes of these movies. I think a lot of old sci-fi movies tend to have messages similar to these. I agree with you. It's kind of weird to have a group of horny spacemen with the drunkest, most irresponsible cook traveling throughout the universe. It's they have one foot in the tropes of what basically a group of people on a ship would be like, and also a view towards the future. And I think that's where I get confused sometimes because I'm a Star Trek The Next Generation fan. And in order to get where they are, the Federation has given up many things like the need for money, the desire for to take a bride, the way that these people have basically been stranded on a ship for X amount of years, and everybody just wants to get with Smurfette who lives on this planet. That's so uncharacteristic of a futuristic society that has advanced to the place where they can travel millions and millions of miles faster than light. But it's a movie trope, right? And it moves stuff along and adds a love story to it. And I think that's some of the weaker parts of the story. But also the movie deals, I'm speaking about Forbidden Planet, speaks about our subconscious, the dark parts of our brain, as we see later on in the movie, spoiler alert, where the monster that's manifested is like the lizard brain of this man who lives there alone, full of jealousy and rage and the desire to do harm to others. So it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition there. But I want to say that as much as the dialogue is good, I think it has one of the dumbest things in it as well, where someone says, Robbie the robot, who undoubtedly is cool, but also has to pause for a minute and make typing machines before sounds before he answers a question, and will sometimes just freeze and turn purple when he's confused. Someone says, oh, he is greater than the sum of all of our knowledge back on Earth after they just traveled 250 million miles in light speed. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's an interesting robot, but did you forget you got here on a spaceship? So I thought that line was very dumb. Other than that, Klaatu Barada Nikto, I knew that was from somewhere before. It was interesting to hear it in this movie and realize that Evil Dead basically lifted it from that. Also, if you're trying to behave inconspicuously, don't act like Klaatu as Mr. Carpenter. Don't hand children diamonds or take them out in public alone. Mm-hmm. Don't say things like, well, if an alien saw this, he would think this, especially when they're on the hunt for a spaceman. Very dumb. Also, but I do like the way it portrays, again, we're talking about the juxtaposition of these people being afraid of our natural tendencies once we gain access to atomic power, and we show how warlike we are by shooting a man who comes in peace and pulls out a piece of machinery we don't know about. So our first reaction is to shoot him. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good indicator of why aliens wouldn't really want to mess with us. And I don't mean that in like, oh, we're dangerous, but would view us as beneath their notice. But yeah, to get back to the stories, they're interestingly written, but overly long and boring.
Golly gee, mister, you sure did solve that arithmetic real well.
Yeah, that's class A dialogue right there.
Well, and I mean, once again, like Gabe said, we're going back to the 50s, so there's some time travel involved for us. And I just wanted to say, I like the idea of diamonds being the currency, because we're like, okay, what's the hardest subject ever? It's diamonds, and they'll last forever. Like, that's what he uses for currency. But real quick, the one thing I wanted to say, because I agree once again with Gabe and with Kyle, I feel Forbidden Planet had been lifted a little bit from The Tempest by Shakespeare. And I was like, where did I figure this out? And I have no idea where I picked this up. I have no idea how it came about. It could have come about in conversations with someone years ago. But if you look at The Tempest and look at Forbidden Planet, they are very, very similar.
That is correct. It is. It's a reskin of Tempest. Yeah. The Tempest.
Yep.
And I do like the idea of our subconscious creating monsters in our head, right? And it's very metaphorical, where we're creating monsters in our own heads and causing the problems ourselves instead of not allowing that to happen. And it's kind of similarly themed, where, like what Kyle said, we're afraid of things not like us. And of course, both of these were made during the Red Scare, and not only atom bombs but hydrogen bombs, and there's tests happening all the time. So it's huge in sci-fi in the 50s. It's very prevalent.
Well, and to that point, you have, coming off of World War II, that idea of the monsters in the world that can destroy us, and it turns out it's just us, and we are creating those monsters. We are making that happen. And I find that to be an interesting theme to push that mindset across, that these people that were the smartest in the world or in the universe and had found all this technology and were just brilliant beyond our comprehension, actually did themselves in by devising something that was deep inside themselves, which was their fears, or the quote unquote monsters that they brought to life using their own technology. So it's kind of an interesting parallel with things like the atomic bomb, with the Nazis and World War II's, and that kind of mentality that was going on. With the day that Earth stood still, there was, even though it was written quite a while ago, and the dialogue is very much that time period, which in 20, 30 years, people are going to watch movies from the 2000s or from the middle 2000s and be like, this dialogue is terrible. This is so dumb. Who talks like this? And so, it's going to be the same thing. But besides all of that, there was a lot of similarities to a lot of the struggle and the frustration that is going on, I would say, in the world today, even. So it actually relates. And sadly, over the last 70 years hasn't really changed. We have a lot of the problems that he was trying to explain to Klaatu of, there's no way that you're going to get all of the governments and all of the countries all to sit down at a table together. It's just not going to happen. You're not comprehending that. And it's just, it's beyond his, for his smart and his intelligent and his everything they were trying to do. It was beyond that comprehension for them. And yet we still face similar things today. So I think it was well written in the sense that it was very relevant. I don't know if the mindset was known that it was going to still be relevant, and maybe it's really sad that it's still relevant. But I mean, it's the one thing I was weird about the day, and I hope this is a good place for in writing, but the day the Earth stood still, the only thing that was really weird about it was at the end, he's standing and he's addressing everyone and they're talking and they're like, you know what, we're going to leave this decision up to you. You guys decide. And then he leaves and then it's the end. There's like, it feels like there's no completion. It was just, you know what, we're here and we want you guys to live in peace and we're going to let you guys decide. All right, see ya. And then they left.
Yeah, and if you don't live in peace, we'll destroy you.
We're going to destroy you.
Yeah. Yep.
But we're waiting for you to let us know what your decision is, and then he pieces out, and I'm like, wait, what happened?
I think both of them actually suffered from that a little bit, that they ended abruptly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but you're right. It did end abruptly, and I was a little, as much as I liked some of the dialogue in The Day the Earth Stood Still, I felt like his final speech wasn't really as compelling as it could have been.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I just compared it.
It wasn't terrible, but
to the remake and some of the transitions they did with the remake with Keanu Reeves, and the ending was just, I was a little shocked that it just ended like that. So I don't think I've ever seen all of it all the way through. I'm in the same boat as you guys. I've seen Forbidden Planet, but not that. I don't think I've ever seen the original Day all the way through like that. So
I know we're out of time, but my dad loved The Day the Earth Stood Still. Like he was a huge fan of that. And so I saw it a lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but I saw it a few times when it aired.
I've seen pieces of it, just never the whole thing. And of course I've seen the remake. I'm also, I will throw in for writing, maybe acting. Nah, it's writing. It was nice to see Robbie the robot show up in Gremlins.
All right. Anybody else have anything else to add? No? Good. All right. Let's see. Let's check our vote. Let's vote. Gabe.
I'm going to go with The Day.
The Day. All right. Kyle.
I'm going to go Forbidden Planet.
Forbidden Planet. All right. Mike.
Man, I really like the dialogue. Even though I love Forbidden Planet, I like the dialogue in The Day the Earth Stood Still.
So you're going Day of the Earth Stood Still?
Yes, sir.
All right. And Andrew.
I'm going to go with The Day the Earth Stood Still because he references the day after tomorrow.
Little nod to Jake Gyllenhaal there. Yeah. I thought these movies were really preachy. It's like, we don't need your help destroying the planet. We got that. Thanks, bud.
The 1950s.
Oh, 19. Just give us a couple decades. We'll get this. All right. So some trivia for y'all. In Day the Earth Stood Still, it was based on a short story, Farewell to the Master by Harry Bates. In Astounding Science Fiction magazine, Bates was paid a whopping $500 by 20th Century Fox, which in $2025 is really not much more than $500. Forbidden Planet, also known as Pigs in Space, the settler ship's Bellerophon is named after the Greek god mythology hero who destroyed the fire-breathing monster Chimera, making Forbidden Planet an indirect prequel to Mission Impossible 2.
I like that.
Good. That's good. I rewrote it 6 times, so I'm glad you liked it.
The threads are deep with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo!
All right. We're moving on to the next round. Let's go with, acting.
I think this is me. Acting. So acting's come a long way in the past 70 years. And I would say probably for the better for most parts. So let's start with The Day the Earth Stood Still. Apparently acting like an alien is just seeming like a creepy man sometimes, and speaking in riddles and also saying the quiet parts out loud a lot when you're trying not to get caught. It's sort of strange. I like his ideas and his intonations, He doesn't ever let anyone in on his plans. He's also very inflexible on just like telling people why he's here. And it just kind of comes off as smug and rude sometimes. I feel like that actor did an all right job at portraying an alien. I give some credit to whoever was in the robot suit. But I will say, if you're going to build one of those robot suits, try to make it so the back of the legs don't bend. Really gives away the fact that it's not metal and that it's obviously latex or rubber. I thought the female lead was pretty weak. The kid was giving typical bad child acting from the 50s. Phil Hartman, which is what that guy who liked her a lot looked like in the boarding house. The acting was overall very 50s and not very good, to be fair. Just wasn't a big fan of the acting of The Day the Earth Stood Still. I think it was much better in Forbidden Planet. It was very interesting to see Leslie Nielsen in a serious role. I'm so used to seeing him as Frank Drebin that I forgot he has been other people in the past. I thought he played a great captain. He had a camaraderie with his shipmates, but also an authority and a sense of gravitas about him, which I enjoyed. It was a shame that he was also a horny man in space. I thought he would be above that, but nope. His lesser, baser instincts took over there. Leslie Nielsen looked old even when he was young, which I think is interesting. He was probably, 40 when he made this movie? God knows. He's old as hell. So I don't know. I don't know. He's probably in his 20s, but people in their 20s back then looked like they were in their 50s because everybody smoked cigarettes. So I thought he was great. His shipmates were pretty good with the exception of Cookie, who was a man I would never let anywhere near an interstellar ship. He is one Kansas City bourbon away from putting his hand in a nuclear reactor and killing everyone.
Kyle, he was also 33.
Kyle, he was what?
Leslie Nielsen was 33 in that movie?
Correct.
So he was born in the 20s then.
Yep, yes. 26.
Okay, 1926.
I have him at 30.
Okay.
Well, born in 26, movie in 56. He was born in Regina.
I did 59. So. Sorry.
Tom, I don't know if you know this, but most of us are born from a Regina.
Yes.
Yeah.
From whence we came.
From whence we came. Yes. From whence he came and then we came. That's how it goes. And that's how she blows. So, I liked that movie a lot more. A villain, quote unquote villain, who was also, people love to tip their hands in these movies. Don't warn people away from your planet and then threaten them a bunch. Be like, hey, yeah, come down. Everything's cool. Okay, bye, guys. Everything's great. Not very smart for a man who had 3 electrodes quadruple his IQ. Also, why does it kill the other guy and not him? That's more of a writing question, but apparently he's allowed to get big-brained and red-pilled, but this other dude is not. I don't know. The acting is so actory, and that's the problem with these old things. One thing I'll give them credit for is they're all shooting laser guns, and I didn't see a single one of them moving them up and down like they were firing bullets.
Right.
So I'll give them credit for that. Although I will say, stepping forward as if your lasers will do more damage is pretty stupid to get yourself killed. That's more of just a nitpick with the movie. But yes, my laser is more effective from up there where it can reach me. And that's very dumb. I'm done.
Hey, shout out to Aunt B for being very annoying. But yeah, Kyle, you're right. Like, Klaatu was the least trying to stay unsuspicious as you could. And if he just told the White House guy, like the whole time, and this is going back to writing, but if he had told the guy talking to him in the room, like, this is very important. This is why I'm here. And just told him, I think maybe it would have been the script would have gone a little bit of a different way, and maybe not. But yeah, he just comes off as, well, I can't tell you that. I'm only allowed to tell these certain people. And it's like, well, explain yourself. But yeah, he did act kind of like a creepy guy. I thought Patricia Neal was just there to do her scream in the ship. She has a hell of a scream, but I like the fact that she was not the there was no kind of romance between Klaatu and her, which is odd for a 1950s sci-fi film. Yes, she has a romantic storyline, but it's not with the main character of Klaatu. The professor, Jacob Barnhart, I really like that character, and I wish there would have been more with him. He seemed that the actor to me was very interesting. Like, I liked his choices. He seemed like a grandpa that would sit there and listen to everything. And I wanted more of that in the film with Professor Barnhart.
I can't believe Malcolm Gladwell's been alive that long.
I know. I kind of thought the same thing too.
Just like
it's funny you brought that up. And for Forbidden Planet, yes, Leslie Nielsen, seeing him as a young man, and he is, well built, handsome, and he is really good as the captain. And Kyle made a very good point. I wish he would have been above the horny men on a ship trope, but he wasn't. But Walter Pidgeon, I love Walter Pidgeon in this movie. His voice, his the way he delivers the lines, his cadence. I really like him in that role. And Walter Pidgeon is a great actor. And once again, should be said, yes, these movies suffer from being made clear back in the 1950s when acting was still kind of progressing to where it is today. And I'm pretty sure, in 10 years, we'll look back at some of the stuff coming out now and we're like, oh, it's so bad. But maybe not, because I think we've hit a pretty good stride as far as acting is concerned. That's all I got. I'll stop yammering.
I mean, I could name movies from last year that are like, ugh.
Well, yeah.
I think part of the acting though is because they feel a little still like stage play kind of thing, where they're still on a stage. Like, you had a lot of musicals that were on stage at that time too, and I think both of these movies suffer from that sound stage. We're doing a moving picture play instead of actually doing a movie. And I think that was just because of the time and where it was. And so I think that's where some of that comes from. I feel really, really bad for the girl in Forbidden Planet because, they don't have like any kind of sexual harassment coaches on set. Because holy crap, some of the lines and some of the interactions, I was like, even for the time, I was like, wow. Because the first thing that he says is they have all the horny guys on the ship that have been there for 300 and some days. And it's like, they just want to line her up. And I'm like, holy buckets, dude. Like,
yep.
But I will tell you this is the first movie I've ever seen Leslie Nielsen in without white hair. Because I don't think I've ever seen him without white hair, ever. He's kind of the Steve Martin. There's only like one movie I can think of that Steve Martin didn't have white hair. And so it was interesting to see him. He's, Leslie Nielsen's a great actor. He's a damn funny comedian, though. And I think I prefer him doing funny stuff, but he's got chops. And this movie showed it, as we've said before. Yeah, 3 cheers to the poor dude in the 8-foot robot outfit. I bet that thing was hot as shit. Because, damn, like even in the short scenes, I bet that was very, very uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, Klaatu was dry. I guess I wonder was that a implication of the actor, or was that just because that's what he was supposed to do? And I know that besides some of the writing and the dialogue, and hey, here's some diamonds for $2. No one will ever suspect. Besides all that crap, like I felt that he was playing a stone alien that didn't really have feelings or emotions, and he was just, he kind of was just doing his part. I think he did that well because he was really dry. But was he supposed to be? That would be my question. Is I don't think he was necessarily a bad actor. I think he was just playing that character really well. Maybe. I don't know. That's the way I guess I looked at it. Otherwise, yeah, I pretty much, there's nothing I can really add. Good stuff.
Yeah. I agree with Andrew that these movies do suffer from the acting being a bit stilted and stagey. The way the lines are presented, and they're all waiting to for the other actor to finish before they start their line, and but I did like some of the performances. I actually kind of liked Michael Rennie as Klaatu. I kind of liked, and I think it comes down to the voice, his voice. He spoke very clearly and had a deep, interesting voice, and I think the same goes for Walter Pidgeon. I think that's why we like Walter Pidgeon, because he has this commanding voice. So, I think some of those performances, those are actually maybe good things that are translated from the stage to the screen in this instance. I don't know that the women were given very much. They were mostly eye candy. I don't know that they were given very much, acting opportunity. They were kind of just there for show, mostly, I think. I don't know that I have too much else to add to that either. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just want to let you guys know, the gentleman that played Gort was, oh shoot, I lost it. Here it is.
Andre the Giant.
7'4" tall. His name was Locke Martin. And
Shut up.
Oh, sorry.
I only got 2 pieces of trivia. Shut up.
Sorry.
60 seconds. You can't go 60 seconds without stealing my trivia.
The trivia I heard last round was quite incredible. I have no doubt.
Do you want more? Do you want more of that great trivia?
Well, we were talking about the people in the...
Then mute Mike.
We were talking about the people in the suits.
I don't have those controls.
So there is one thing I will say about the female lead in The Day the Earth Stood Still. She dumped her fiance really fast. And again, I don't know if that's writing or what, but her reaction was like, he's on the phone and he's going to turn it in. And he's like, I'm going to make some money off of this. And she's like, oh, really? He's like, oh, yeah, you're going to love it when you see my picture in the papers for our wedding. And she's like, well, I'm not marrying anybody. And just stormed off. I was like, what just happened?
Well, he was a douche.
I understand.
He earned it.
But it was just a very instantaneous, oh yeah, we're not getting married now.
Right.
Like she bought a one-way ticket to Spinster City. She had a kid.
There was just no no character development with that.
Like
it was just all of a sudden, just boom, she's done. And I just thought that was weird. That's
what, if I were 1950s Phil Hartman, I would have kept my mouth shut and been like, this kid has access to diamonds.
Yeah.
I am in like Flynn.
Yep.
Oh,
I'm going to bang this woman and I'm going to steal this kid's diamonds.
No, the best part of that was when they were like, do you think he's actually a diamond thief? And I'm like, yep, a diamond thief giving you diamonds for $2 and
diamond
throwing
thieves.
some on the ground, but he's a diamond thief. You're correct. Yep.
It's like whenever I hear people put drugs in candy at Halloween, like, people who have drugs don't give it away for free.
Right. Yes. Oh, I remember that scare in the 80s.
That's how they get them hooked, though. They're dealers.
We got to get your candy x-rayed to make sure there's no drugs in it.
Yeah.
Radioactive candy.
Yep.
Drugs or razor blades.
Yep.
Yep. Hey, I had a bunch of razor blades. I turned out just fine. Yeah, well.
All right. Anybody else? Anything else? No? No? All right. Let's go ahead and put it to a vote. First up is Gabe.
Oh boy, this one's tough. There's not a lot of great acting in either of these, so I don't know. I'm going to go with The Day the Earth Stood Still.
All right, Day the Earth Stood Still. Andrew.
I'm going with Forbidden Planet just because I like Leslie Nielsen.
All right. Mike.
Forbidden Planet.
Forbidden Planet. And Kyle.
Yes, Leslie Nielsen is the one for me, son. Forbidden Planet. Right. I'm a rapper.
All right. So here's some fun acting trivia for you. In Forbidden Planet, Robbie the Robot was originally operated by stuntman actor Frankie Darro, who you may remember from Her Father Said No and Chick Carter, Detective. He was fired during filming for almost falling over while inside the expensive prop following a 5-martini lunch. In today's dollars, Robbie would cost about $1.5 million or 25 Blair Witch projects. On Day the Earth Stood Still, you guys mentioned this, Locke Martin, who played Gort, was actually the doorman at Grauman's Chinese Theater. Though he was not strong enough to carry Patricia Neal or Michael Rennie and needed wire and lightweight dummies to help with the shots, allegedly, child actor Billy Gray scoffed at this, complaining, "He can't carry one actor? I'm carrying this whole fucking film."
Oh, that's fantastic.
Give that kid an Oscar.
All right, moving on to round 3, and I believe it's directing.
Yep, that's me. So we'll talk about Forbidden Planet. So I kind of looked through a lot of the films that Mr. Fred M. Wilcox did besides Forbidden Planet, just to kind of get a feel out for him. I don't think I've seen any of these movies except for maybe Lassie Come Home, because we had to watch it in school. The rest of these, no. The Secret Garden, but I've only seen the remake. But yeah, then Forbidden Planet. And then he has a couple of very, I would say, off-the-wall ones. There's a movie, his last movie that he directed, because he didn't do very much. He only did it from the 40s to 1960. So only about 20 years. And he did 1 or 2 movies early in the 40s, and then quite a few movies from 46 to 49 and the 50s and stuff. He did a movie called I Pass for White, which is a very odd. I read the description, and it's about this young lady who's half black, and tries and basically is getting engaged, and fools everyone because even though she's half black. So he has some very strong, I would say, well, as we said, trying to, force a message into us. So it sounds like he picks movies and does things that have potentially a strong message or a controversial message. Because definitely in 1960, something like that would have been a pretty hard pill to swallow for a lot of moviegoers. And so I found that really kind of interesting. He hasn't really done much of really anything.
That's because he passed away in 1964.
Well, yeah, but he could have made one in 61, 62, or 63. Like, you don't know.
He had the 4-year flu. He couldn't.
That's he just has a very short movie career with, like I said, not a lot of films that I've actually even seen or heard of. So I thought that was interesting. Let's hit up The Day That Earth Stood Still with Mr. Robert Wise. there's a couple of films in here that you probably have heard of, besides, the Day That Earth Stood Still. So he did a couple of little, I don't know, they're probably low budget. No one's really heard of them. Run Silent, Run Deep, West Side Story, The Sound of Music. I don't know if anybody's seen that. He did Star Trek: The Motion Picture. So he's done some film work. He definitely has a sense for the sci-fi. There's quite a few science fiction films in here besides some of the off ones like West Side Story and Sound of Music that are definitely not science fiction. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the directing of this. I think we've hit up a little bit of how these movies have suffered a little bit from in the time period, that whole stage thing. I would say that The Day That Earth Stood Still, there was a little bit more or less of the staging, because it looks like they actually filmed on location for a lot of stuff, even though I think some of it was still in some sound stages for like probably the city shots and things like that. But, they were actually in cars. They were on baseball fields, and I'm sure some of that was a mix between actual B footage and real soundstage such. But, they actually like worked that all in together, and it felt more of what you would consider a traditional film. I'm not sure if that was budgeting or if it was just the story itself. Whereas with Forbidden Planet, it was much more stagier. Now we'll get into all the fancy stuff in a minute, but it was much more stagier. Everything was very linear. There, a lot of wide shots, then you close in and then wide shots, real basic stage play kind of stuff. Nothing really to write home about on that. But I will touch in a little bit on the visual effects, because that all blends in with there. I would say that The Day That Earth Stood Still, the flying saucer, that visual effects was absolutely incredible, especially the coming down and landing on the big baseball field. It was really well done, especially for the time and what they had to work with. That was a very well matted shot and done superbly well. A lot of the car rides were back projection. It was very obvious, but they hid that really well. So I was really, really pleased with a lot of that. Rubber suits. It was the 50s. What do you do? The Forbidden Planet, their sets were incredible. They were just, beautiful. Lots of matte paintings, and they had some gorgeous matte painting artists. And I know that they obviously built some really awesome sets for like the UFO, or well, not the UFO, but the actual like Union ship that landed. It lands and then they cut to the set piece. And it's perfect that way. And they did a lot of stuff practical, and it really shows some of the quality and some of the insight that went in when they were making these, to really ground a lot of the science fiction, especially for the time. Today there's a lot of CG, not a lot of in-camera stuff. And so it's really nice to see what they had to work with and some of the amazing things they actually pulled off. So I was really impressed with that. So kudos to the forethought of, the visual effects artists and the directors for that. So. Yep.
Yeah. So The Day That Earth Stood Still, I thought looked okay. I thought its visual effects held up a little more poorly over time, but it was also 5 or 6 years earlier, and that's a long time in the 50s in the advancement of some of these techniques. There were lots of leaps and jumps that happened in short periods of time as people discovered new techniques. So try not to hurt it too much. The effects of the robot's eye beam, I really liked the raising of the visor and the sort of visual of that energy pulsing back and forth was cool. It kind of fell apart when it then shot out, everybody stood still, then turned into an obvious pile of ash. I thought that was not great. The directing, we sort of talked about the acting, and we mentioned Carpenter's sort of stilted, odd behavior And that's, obviously something a director okayed and went along with that choice. So if you don't like that, you got to knock the directing for that and for getting some of the performances they did out of some of the actors and actresses, which I thought were kind of hokey, hammy, one note, tropey, or just uninteresting. Forbidden Planet, I think, is a much better directed film, especially with the way they move the camera, set the shots up. They use their, like you say, their matte paintings, and then obviously there are things they're going to do in visual effects with the lasers and the monster and the way they even. It's in a movie this old. It's so obvious now when you see the cuts where they put the lead lining up all around the man's house. But it looked very cool and probably would have looked very smooth and interesting to a crowd at the time. I thought they did great there. Some of their practical effects were great. Robbie the Robot was an awesome suit. He was so much better than the robot from the other film. But I feel like all his production design was from the waist up, because from the bottom down, he was just a bunch of 3/4 bowling balls on a pair of boots. And it just looks strange. But yeah, a lot of his production design from the neck or from the waist up was awesome. And the house and the alien technology and the visual effects we see in that movie, I think are really stunning for the years. I think back, and this is much before my time, but if I was a kid watching these movies, I can see Forbidden Planet capturing my attention and making me into like a sci-fi fan, being very interested by this, by the intrigue, by the mystery, by the sort of dashing characters and beautiful women and the conflict and the robot. And then The Day the Earth Stood Still would have just bored me out of my head as a child. I actually fell asleep during that movie. My wife had to wake me up and remind me to finish watching the movie. And the movie is an hour and a half. So I'm not narcoleptic. So to fall asleep during an hour and a half long movie because it's so slow and boring is, to me, an indictment of its pacing. Forbidden Planet, also pretty slow in places, to be fair. Not a whole lot happening. Some men standing around talking. I think some of that's carried by the acting a bit better in that film. But yeah, I mean, these movies could be an hour or less easily. But I give a lot of credit in directing for the foresight of the cinematographer and director to set the shots up, to move the camera, to make the most out of what they had with their alien vistas and landscapes and their exotic locations and technology. You see a lot of that on the camera or on the screen. The Day the Earth Stood Still, almost all of it takes place away from the spaceship, away from the interesting alien technology, and it really is more of a human study, but it loses a lot of that directing pizzazz you get in Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, we didn't actually mention, you brought up the alien, well, the id creature monster that they did in Forbidden Planet. I honestly, I think it looks amazing, even though I know it was drawn. Like, I thought that was super fantastic, that creature. When it
gave me Disney vibes. It seemed like a Disney animation.
Well,
I mean, it was drawn. It was drawn
by a Disney animator.
It literally is.
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't know that. I really didn't know that.
Yep.
But yeah, it gave me those vibes very much of yeah.
But I mean, I thought that was
cool looking.
Yeah, compared, especially for like what they did and how they did it, I thought it was really well done. So.
Yeah, sometimes I just want to jump in real quick. Sometimes, I just finished talking, so I don't know why I'm jumping in. But sometimes we knock movies for being lazy or taking advantage of things. But I think it works the opposite way when you see old movies that are trying so hard. I think you have to boost that and score that higher and give it sort of a multiplier to its score. Like, it would be very simple now to remake Forbidden Planet in 10 days. But back at this time, like, all of that stuff was so labor and time intensive. And I think you have to give it a lot of extra kudos and make sure you pay homage to how difficult and new and groundbreaking some of that stuff was. And how even after 70 years, some of it still looks really cool. and it's still interesting, and it doesn't break your immersion. You don't look at it and go, oh my God, that's so hokey or terrible. I mean, obviously we can see the seams and the gaps and the cuts, because it's much harder to fool us now with those things than it was back then. But just huge props to the people who made all that happen. Basically groundbreaking and creating some of these things as they went along.
Yeah, I think both of these films were very competently directed, actually. Especially considering kind of the scope of them. And I think, the thing that really stands out, that we've discussed so much, is the production design, the visual effects. Those kinds of things really stand out. And we're more modern audiences, and we're used to some new things. But sometimes I feel like CG isn't necessarily always an improvement over what they were doing with these films. Some of the practical effects, some of the actual sets, the actual props, Robbie the robot actually being there, those kinds of things, I think, actually elevate these movies, and I appreciate those things a lot. And the amount of time and effort that went into designing these things and creating them is really incredible. I feel like, I'm sure there's a lot of work and a lot of skill that goes into the CG stuff, but it also doesn't seem quite the same. It's like, oh yeah, if we don't get it quite right, we can just fix it. We can just go back and do it again real quick, re-render or whatever. So I really appreciate the production design and the visual effects in both of these films. I think we did touch a little bit on the robots. Robbie the robot was far superior, but it still kind of looked like a person in a suit, but not as much as Gort. Gort was interesting and intimidating, and I liked some of the design of it, but it felt a little bit lazy on some of the actual costuming, But yeah, I think these were both well directed, and I think Robert Wise is, he's pretty well known for directing some pretty good films, and this one was pretty. Whether or not you like The Day the Earth Stood Still, it was pretty well put together. It was pretty well done.
All right. Anybody else got anything else? No?
I didn't get to go, but I'll save mine for overall.
Shit. What do you have to say, Mike? They talk right over you, don't they?
It's fine. No, I was letting them go. It happened to me
last month. You go ahead.
I'll do it overall. It's fine. Go ahead.
I feel like I've lost control of this show. All right. So directing. Let's throw out some votes here. Kyle. Kyle, would you like to vote for directing? Okay. Andrew?
Oh, it turns out my microphone was muted. My bad.
I'm sorry. Polling is closed.
Okay. I cede my vote.
That's okay. Mike did too, because he didn't say anything. So we just have 2 votes for this category. All right. Andrew.
Oh, you're jumping to me for real. Yeah, I'm going to go with I really think I'm going to go with Forbidden Planet. The visual effects were just top notch in both these movies, but they stood out a little more in Forbidden Planet. So,
all right, Gabe.
I'm going to go with The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Okay. All right. So, Mike and Kyle, do you guys want to vote?
Yes.
All right, fine. You didn't say anything, so
go ahead, Mike.
Fine. Go ahead, Mike. You go first.
I'm going Forbidden Planet.
All right. And Kyle, would you like to
just
vote?
To cancel Mike's vote, I will go with The Day the Earth Stood Still.
All right. Well, for what it's worth, I'm weighting everything here on how I feel about these movies, so your votes really don't matter.
It's like, whose line is it anyways?
That's right. 20 points for Forbidden Planet and minus 300 for Day the Earth Stood Still. In The Day the Earth Stood Still, the Army refused to cooperate after reading the script. The studio then approached the National Guard. which had no qualms about seeing the Army depicted in a less than flattering light and gladly offered their cooperation. And on Forbidden Planet, it was filmed on the same set used for The Wizard of Oz. And if you look closely, you might notice that Altair's garden is actually just the modified Munchkin Village. Sadly, Altair 4 has no Lollipop Guild.
Boo.
Boom.
But they
All
do
right.
have frozen lion or tigers that jump and freeze in midair.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. All right. So let's move on to our final category, overall, which I think is just Mike talking for 15 minutes.
All right. Let's do
You earned
this.
it.
Well, I'm not sure there's much else that can be said about these movies, but I'll do my best. As far as directing is concerned, the Day the Earth Stood Still, there is something about lighting in black and white movies that I love. I love how
it's great.
Yes, how they use the light. You know, you have your highlights and you have your blacks, and it's just great. I love the look of it. The special effects in The Day the Earth Stood Still, have not aged really well, but I will say the practical effects, the ship sitting there and how the ramp comes out and the top part opens. Like, I kept looking for seams, and I mean, you can kind of see them, but they are so well hidden and they are so well crafted. I mean, they had to build that ship. It looks great. The laser effect, I'm kind of with Kyle on this. It's the melting, and of course 1951. I do like the fact that there's slag on the ground after the tanks melt. And the artillery, I like that little touch that they brought that in. Forbidden Planet, absolutely love the matte paintings. Like, they are gorgeous and they look great. And I was reading somewhere about the sound stage. It was like the biggest sound stage they were using on MGM's lot for essentially the ship and the surrounding area around the ship. They just took it over. And the visual effects in that, as we mentioned, animated mostly by a Walt Disney animator. It was originally, they were going to use MGM animators, but like a year before they had released all of them. So they hired a guy from Walt Disney, and he did most of the animation for the visual effects, and I love the look of them. You know, Kyle said the creature looked very Disney-esque, and it's absolutely true. It does look very Disney-esque when you do see it. I like the falling feet when it's sneaking up to the ship. That was such a great effect. Like, it was so good. And like when the tiger jumps and disappears, it was a really well done shot that would just be so easy nowadays. Like Gabe said, where you just feel that this was very labor intensive, and the size of the underground city that they're walking through is just immense, and it's so well done. Like, I know in my head that they just had a camera way up high, shot these guys walking along, and then put in this matte painting and put it in either in camera or in post, and it still looked fantastic, like absolutely fantastic, and it still holds up today.
They were still shooting on glass.
Yes, glass in front of the camera. Yep.
With just the cutout of where the people are.
It looks so good. And as far as the robots are concerned, I mean, Robbie is forever. Like, he is absolutely fantastic. I agree with Kyle about the bowling balls for legs. They were like, well, someone's got to walk around in it. Okay. How about we put spheres so they have movement, but everything cool is going to be up top. I like the idea of all the mechanisms, where Gort is more of just this metal casing that is, as they say in the actual film, impregnable. It's the strongest stuff they've ever run across. He's just sealed up, and Robbie is just all this mechanical stuff, moving and whirring and making noises. It's just so much more pleasing to see, where Gort is very plain. Robbie is the total opposite. It's hey, I'm here. He's the party guy. Where else was I going to say? I had this long list in my head. Even the inside of the ship, and I found it funny that humans were now flying around in flying saucers. Even the inside of the ship is awesome. They built all that, and they had to have it move, and the actors could touch and feel it and work with it. And Leslie Nielsen, even though he could talk to all the guys at once, still got on the microphone and told everyone what was going on. They just made it feel like it was so much more of a larger ship. I had read somewhere that Gene Roddenberry had stated that he got most of his ideas from Forbidden Planet for Star Trek. And I think it shows. Like, you kind of, if you know a lot of Star Trek and you watch Forbidden Planet, you're like, oh yeah, that's familiar. And one last thing, and I'll open it up. I'm sorry. The music. I really like the music in Forbidden Planet, but I can see where it would be annoying. It's all, I believe they got credit for something electric modulation or something like that, because there was a problem with the Composer Guild or the Music Guild in Hollywood, because it wasn't actually considered music. They were using electronics to create the music way before the synthesizer was made. And it's very fascinating. If you get the time, look up how they made the music in Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, would you call it music?
I mean,
in a way, it's just kind of
atmospheric.
Yeah. It is kind of like, yeah. And at times it can be maybe distracting.
Yes,
but I found it to be a very interesting choice to do that, and kind of ahead of its time, for sure. Yeah, that's a very definitely very interesting aspect of Forbidden Planet is that choice too.
Yep. Yeah, and the Day the Earth Stood Still music did not, I mean, it's not anything that stands out, where it's so different in Forbidden Planet that it definitely stands out.
Yeah, the music in The Day the Earth Stood Still is kind of typical 50s Hollywood kind of music.
Did you notice that also when he was talking about the Krell and all of their technology and their metals, one of the metals that he lists off was adamantium?
I did.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting that was thrown in, and I was curious if there was like some insight to that, because I thought that was unique.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I didn't mention unobtainium, so
that is true.
That would have been great. Some things I took away from the movies. What a difference 6 or 7 years makes in film production. I agree with you guys. I love the way most black and white movies are lit and shot. I think they tried to do some day for night or night for day stuff at times, and it didn't come across very well in that. And the lighting was kind of poor in exterior shots. Also, I just think there were some things that stick in my craw from a story standpoint with The Day the Earth Stood Still. two yokels guarding what is the greatest find in modern scientific history seems ridiculous. There's literally two guys who are constantly easily tricked or knocked out by a robot after he's given Morse code through a flashlight or whatever. It's just like laughable how convenient that is, and it shouldn't be so obvious. Also, I feel like the alien Klaatu's plan is pretty poor. His final speech is pretty flat. I think it fits it with the time and resonate a lot more with the audience at the time, but could have been delivered a lot earlier in the movie to different, more important people and had a bigger impact, rather than after he's already been shot for the second time. Now he's dead by warmongering Americans, which I think is kind of funny. One of my favorite movies of the last, I don't know how old it is now, 10 or 20 years, but Arrival has a similar thing where they start talking about the aliens on like talk radio, and it starts to get inside people's heads that these things should be feared and destroyed, and it almost sabotages our relationship with them because people are riled up by the fear. So, I mean, I can see that this movie sort of had an impact that lasted throughout time. I think that's also just a human instinct. Forbidden Planet, much more like a serial sort of action, adventure, sci-fi movie. Also reminds me a lot of some episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation where they find someone or some people on a planet where everything appears to be normal, and then you find out things are very strange. Under the surface, there's a lot of that sort of mystery that you talk about Gene Roddenberry using it as an example or an influence. I can see that there. And with the kind of advancement of human technology, but also some of the baser instincts of humans still being present. One of the things that tripped me up the most is that they land in like Mike said, like a flying saucer, which I think is funny. Did we commandeer those, or did we develop our own way to make those, and everything eventually ends up looking like a flying saucer if it travels through space? Also thought it was funny that when you land on a foreign planet, you then have to go down a steep set of about 60 stairs to get to the planet's surface. They constantly mention the tractor, which I assume is a tractor beam. I never see it used very often. They don't beam them down to the planet. They don't even have turbo lifts. They don't even have elevators or escalators or just tubes to deposit them. No, you must travel down these stairs. Thought that was kind of funny.
The tractor was the vehicle that they had with the magnet on it.
With the magnet on it.
Oh, okay, I see. So it's not a tractor.
It was a tractor.
Whenever they mention it, I'm like, well, do you have a tractor beam? Okay, so anyways, yeah, so there's some obvious gaps in technology there. Apparently, slowing down from light speed, you have to stand on a
transporter tubes.
Yeah, basically what looks like a heating vent at a Costco, and you have to stand there in the green slime, invisible, until you wake up and then shake your head and look nauseous. That's how you slow down from light speed, I guess. Also, they have awesome telescopes because they can see a planet from a couple 100 million miles away just in time for it to blow up. Also weird that there is literally just a plunger that will destroy an entire planet in 24 hours. Huge,
right.
some things in the story that really made me go, oh God. And then I'm like, storytelling's come such a long way. And then I realize, I love Kevin Smith films for most of my life. So maybe not all that far, but anyways, yeah. I mean, these are movies from the 50s, and a lot has changed. We've changed as people. We've changed as audiences. I think there's a lot to still like about these movies and appreciate. But yeah, they show their age, they show their cracks, and there's still some obvious flaws with them as films, and just like we find ones with movies made in 2024.
The ship going around the sun was funny when he was like, oh, it's getting hot in here. And he's like, oh yeah, hold on, let me move the ship so we're not behind the sun.
Yeah, we travel.
What?
We travel in sub-zero temperature space, but cannot regulate the heat coming off of a nearby sun. I would say your ship you should be dead. That is radiation pouring in through all the pores and the metal on the outside of your ship. They just land and like, sir, we all have super cancer. This is very close to that sun.
Well,
remember when we were all hot and we stood on the heating vents and got sick? Yeah, this is why.
Yeah, since we're all going to die, I think we should try to get laid.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Let's all run a train on this blonde girl.
I was gonna say in the most awkward way too, and they alluded to it. It wasn't even like they alluded to that's what they were all thinking.
Yeah,
it was so awkward. That and the fact that they said that they had mastered faster than light. Well, they could go the speed of light and then much faster than that in the narration at the very beginning. And then they said that they had been out flying for years. And I was like, how far did you go then if you're going faster than the speed of light? I don't know.
Well, and then the guy, Morbius, was talking about going back to Earth or whatever. And he's like, and he was like, well, that's like 2 years out of my studies or whatever. So yeah, they implied that it was a year's travel in both ways. How do you store that much food? Or I don't know. I don't.
The green slime capsules.
I guess. I don't know. Yeah. But they had to cook, so they had to have somebody cooking stuff. Anyway.
And lots of Kentucky whiskey from Kansas. Right? Yep. 60 gallons of it, which I was trying to figure out how he was going to carry in his apron, by the way. Because he went over to that pile of 60 gallons of supposed 60 gallons, and he was like, thank you! And he starts picking it up and putting it in his apron. I'm like, and they're not going to figure that one out, that you have like 3 bottles, and you keep going back for the entire day to get all of this.
He he took 6 pints at the most. Also, Robbie is an idiot. Put that shit in a 55-gallon drum. Do not make 60 gallons in pint glass jars.
He synthesized the bottles too. Think about it.
He also drank
Earth specifications.
Right, and he put it
750
in to
milliliters.
drink it to figure it out. And then did you hear him belch?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I thought that was really odd too.
Yeah, that's kind of silly, but
Well, he heard Morbius burp once and was like, I think I'll take that.
Also, he did not bring the bourbon in boxes. He piled it loosely at the base of rocks
in a nice like grocery store display. I know, but it was all stacked up real nice. Yeah,
this is a high intelligence being. Okay, he is greater than the sum of all technology that exists on Earth, and he brought conservatively 250 pint bottles of Kansas City bourbon. And laid them all on their sides in heaps at the base of rocks just around the corner from the ship.
This looks like a good spot.
I think perhaps Morbius had a dumb son that he then built a suit for, and he's like, tell everyone you're the smartest robot in the world.
I think
I'm going to need 60 pint bottles.
Oh, God, I got to go downstairs and put the crystals on my forehead again.
Oh, God.
Hang on. Are you going to the bathroom? Take one of these with you. Help me out.
I think one of the set designers worked at a grocery store. They were like laying everything out, threw some hay down.
There's the picture right
we're
there.
seeing the picture. Yeah, we're seeing the picture right now. On the,
60 gallons of Kansas City bourbon arrayed in no particular order in a difficult to transport formation.
And there was no reaction from the guy either. And he's not like...
He's like, how am I supposed to do this?
What the fuck am I supposed to do with this shit?
He's like, oh, God, hooch. I love hooch.
Thanks, buddy.
Shoving it in his apron. Thanks, pal. You ever need anything out of me, a useless alcoholic, let me know.
I've got plenty of lube oil for you. Well, we know.
Lube oil.
Yeah, because you're on a spaceship with 20 guys
there
for
is
a whole year.
One thing you
plenty
can
of
do
lube
for
oil.
Robbie. I have not had my pipes cleaned in many years.
No. He was doing an oil job on himself when she called him.
Performing an oil job on myself. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. Can't come to the door, oil jobbing.
She beamed and beamed, and he would not come. All right.
That's his sister,
I don't know.
man.
Did we vote?
No, we haven't voted
No,
yet.
we still need to vote. Who cares?
Who cares?
Who cares?
We're talking about.
All right.
Ruben and
So
oil.
overall, Mike, which movie did you like overall?
Forbidden Planet.
Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I like Cookie and
Kyle.
his piles of alcohol.
Yeah, this show is as well organized as that liquor. I'm going to vote for Forbidden Planet.
All right, Kyle, Forbidden Planet. Gabe,
I'm going to go with Forbidden Planet as well.
are you kidding me? Do you know what your vote history is?
Yes, it's been. Yes, I do. Dave,
Are you
there's
aware?
just
You're
yes,
aware of
I
what
am aware of that.
movie you voted for every time until now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You have some explaining to do, but all right. Andrew.
Forbidden Planet.
Y'all are crazy as shit. I should have been a panelist. All right. Hey, overall trivia. The equations seen on Professor Barnard's blackboard are authentic physics that describe a particular form of the famous three-body problem in Newtonian gravitation. A problem which has no general closed-form solution. For more of this, check out the new show on Netflix. Forbidden Planet. Although the iconic poster features Robbie carrying an unconscious woman, the movie contains no such scene. It was a staple of monster movies. The monster carrying a woman was a staple of monster movie posters at the time, as seen on posters for Robot Monster, The Black Cat, Money Tomb, and most notably, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Nonetheless, Premiere Magazine voted it as the 5th best movie poster ever. Clearly, that was before Cocaine Bear. Cocaine Bear, great poster. Although it's really hard. Like, how do you make a bad Cocaine Bear poster, right? Like, the thing just kind of designs itself. All right, so let's poke the robot. And do we do recommendations first? Don't
Recommendations first.
I'm looking at the sheet you made for me, and I'm just kind of ignoring shit you wrote on there.
That's
all
fine.
right. So
That's how
let's
we do it.
hang on. I can do this like Mike does. All right, let's go back to the top. Gabe.
Well, I'm going to go with another 50s science fiction film called Invaders from Mars. It's from 1953, and it's about a young boy who sees a flying saucer land in his backyard and burrow itself underground. And then all of a sudden people start disappearing and then showing up again and acting strangely. And he goes to get help and tries to investigate what's going on. And he's the only one at first that believes that it's aliens. But he convinces others over time, and they confront the aliens at the end. And it's really kind of interesting. It's not quite as good as these two that we watched for the show, but it's got some interesting stuff in it. And I think it has one of the more iconic alien creatures in it. I'm not sure a lot of people would know this movie itself, but if you saw a picture of the kind of alien leader, you would recognize it almost immediately. You have almost certainly seen it before, but I found it entertaining and fun, and I would recommend, if you're into 50s sci-fi films, that you should check out Invaders from Mars.
Thank you so much for that excellent recommendation, Gabe.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate your contribution to this program. Next up, trying to be like more professional. Okay, Kyle, you're second. We would love to hear what recommendation you have for us this month.
Oh, professionalism goes out the window here. So I'm going to recommend a movie I saw on Christmas Day in a packed theater, which I thought was awesome. And it is the horniest vampire movie I've ever seen in my life. And you get to see a 600-year-old man's penis. So if that sounds awesome to you, check out Nosferatu. I really enjoyed it. Willem Dafoe is in it. He's crazy as always. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I found out just this week, actually is British. That is his real voice. He's not just doing an accent all the time. So Lily Rose Depp gives a really good performance. Alexander Skarsgård, or I think that's one of the Skarsgårds. Bill Skarsgård, the Pennywise Skarsgård, plays Nosferatu. He is great. Nicholas Hoult is great. The acting in the movie is top notch the entire way. I absolutely loved it. It's a little long. It's a Robert Eggers film, so the Vavitch and Lighthouse and Ari Aster did Midsummer. Sorry, so I'm getting confused here, but yeah, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was great. Had some really great visual effects, awesome cinematography. I love the period setting. I love the acting. I like the story. Just, maybe don't go see it with your parents. It's quite sexy. So yeah, but I mean, I dug it. Check out Nosferatu.
Excellent. Very good. I'm looking forward to that one. We didn't get that up here, name, so I don't know. Waiting for it to come out for stream, I guess. All right. Next up, we have Andrew.
Okay, that's me. I'm going to recommend a science fiction movie that is a little goofy, a little off the rails, but is a lot of fun to watch. Has Martin Freeman in it, which is one of my really favorite actors. I think he's very funny. And Sam Rockwell's in it, and Alan Rickman and Zooey Deschanel. And that's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Super fun movie. Bill Nighy is in it. It's based off of the book. It doesn't even come close to touching on all of the stuff in the book, but it is humorous. It's beautifully, like, the sets and everything else and all of the majestical things that they add to the film, and it's just a really, really fun movie. So The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And it's only like an hour and 40 minutes. So it's one of those that Gabe would like.
Well done. Thank you very much. Excellent suggestion. Next up is Mike.
All right. Well, mine is another sci-fi film from the 50s, actually 1953. So it kind of drops in between both of these. I mentioned earlier that my dad loved The Day the Earth Stood Still, but he loved one other sci-fi movie way more, which was The War of the Worlds. I saw it a lot when I was a kid. Directed by Byron Haskin, of course, written by H.G. Wells and Barry Lyndon, I believe, Lyndon, sorry. It stars Gene Barry, Anne Robinson, and Les Tremayne, or Les Tremayne, however he wants it's said. He's probably dead. He don't care. I love The War of the Worlds. Of course, in this iteration, they are not tripods. They are their flying war machines, and it's great. I love it. You should check it out.
All right. Classic choice. And for my recommendation, I don't really have a sci-fi movie to recommend. So I am going to recommend a movie about the very first episode of my favorite TV show, Saturday Night Live, and that's Jason Reitman's newish movie, Saturday Night. It is really fantastic to look at all the stuff that went behind the scenes on the first episode of Saturday Night Live. Some of it, obviously, some dramatic license there, as Jason Reitman's want to do, and but that's okay. It's very tense, and there is almost a thriller aspect and the suspense that runs underneath it. It's very, very funny, and it's incredible that they are now celebrating their 50th anniversary. So it just came out on. It's been out for stream for a while, and it's just out on physical media. If you're one of those people who like to do that, like me,
it's so good. It's so
I loved
good.
it.
Yeah,
I absolutely love
fantastic.
It's tight and it's very funny. And the acting, there isn't any huge stars in it. What's his name? Gabriel LaBelle from the Spielberg movie from last year, from 2 years ago. He's in it. But anyway, it's really good. I really recommend it, especially if you like Saturday Night Live.
Agreed.
All right. So let's go and poke the monkey and do some math.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is Forbidden Planet!
All right, there you have it. So Forbidden Planet, the score is 10-6. Just so you know, it would have been a tie if I had been on the panel today instead of Mike. So there you go.
Wow.
I liked Day of the Earth so way better than Forbidden Planet. So, but who gives a shit? I'm the host. No one cares. All right. Please leave a review on whatever. Sorry, Mike. That's what we think about you when you're hosting here. So we'd rather you not opinionate.
After like 160 some odd shows, I'm well aware.
Okay. All right. I thought the subtle jabs and passive aggressive behavior is getting through to you. So that's good to know that that's working.
Yep.
Please leave us a review on whatever podcasting service you use. It helps us reach new listeners. And if you like us, tell your friends. If you hate us, tell your enemies. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. If you want to listen to an unedited version of the show, like some people are doing right now, hey, people out there listening to us, cheer. Yay! I heard them. You can catch us live on Twitch whenever we record an episode. In February, we spin some Liz Fair while sipping lattes in our flannel as Ben Stiller's Reality Bites takes on Cameron Crowe singles. For Kyle, Gabe, Andrew, Mike, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
Sorry, miss. I was giving myself an oil job.
I used to have that problem.
What did you do about it?
I just think about baseball.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.